Well, hello, folks, White Sox fans. How you guys doing? Hope you guys are enjoying your little bit of time away from having to watch the White Sox because that was a doozy of a season. So it's nice to have a little bit of time off. My name is Ian Eskridge. Joining me over here is James Fox. How are you, James?
Hey man, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Psyched up for another edition of the FutureSox podcast. So have you been watching the playoffs at all?
Yeah, lots of AL Central, like just what everybody expected.
Yeah, the White Sox are fortunate to play in the AL Central. So I've been hearing.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
in theory, they should be able to like just spend more than all these teams.
yeah. But you have to make good decisions, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise, it doesn't really matter.
right.
And
Yeah.
then you end up where we are. So yeah. So tonight we are seeing Carlos Rodon took the hill for the Yankees. I'm not sure if all four of those runs are his, but I think they are. They are down 4-1 to the Kansas City Royals as we speak.
And Reagan's is pitching for the Royals.
Yeah, Cole Reagans, who looked a little off early, has reined it back in. And I saw Ian Hamilton, former White Sox, warming up to take over for Rodon.
So there's a ton of former White Sox in these playoffs.
So many.
Yeah,
And
like they're everywhere.
yeah, I mean, you got Eloy got released before the playoffs, didn't make the playoff roster. So there goes that one. So I wasn't surprised by that at all.
Do you think Eloy gets a big league deal?
That's a great question. A tough one. I don't know.
Maybe for like a rebuilder, like Oakland, Miami, like 1 year, like a Tim Anderson type deal, like a 1 year, less than that though, 1 year, 2 million with incentives to be the the short side of a DH platoon, maybe. Like, yikes!
How
Like,
did we get here?
the mighty have fallen. My goodness.
Yes. And also Tommy Pham stealing bases.
Oh yeah,
Carlos
So
Rodon.
I feel like a lot of people missed like where he ended up on the Royals.
Yeah.
Like he just the Cardinals were like out of it, and they're like, you know what? Let's release Tommy Pham because he's a pain in the ass. Like, and they were like, and then the Royals claimed it.
And he's exactly a Royals player. Like he embodies a Royals player.
Yeah, Pham's there. DeYoung is on that team. So
yep. Craziness. Says do you know a Schultz, Wilfred Veras start in AAA or AA? I'm gonna go ahead and say at least for Schultz, I think AA. Wilfred Veras, probably AA as well. I think it depends on who they decide to get rid of in Charlotte, I think.
Yeah, like what type of filler is starting the year in Charlotte? The thing with Schultz, like to monitor, obviously, and we've talked about this quite a bit. If they start him in Charlotte, like, I mean, I think that means it's like a kind of accelerated path to the big leagues, right? Just because you can't like if you say that he's gonna throw 140, 130, and you want half of them to be in the big leagues. Like if he goes to Charlotte and he's unhittable, like what do you do? Because then it's like at least if he goes to Birmingham, you can slow play it a little and be like, okay, we're gonna try Charlotte now. It like buys you like a little bit more time. I feel like.
Yeah. Also, do you want to send him to Charlotte?
I think it's fine because I think he's like Charlotte proof. But like, do you want him in the same rotation as Hagen Smith to start the year?
Yeah. I mean, at least for a little bit, right?
Yeah, probably. So that's interesting to me because then there's like a whole host of other dudes you could have there. You could have an all lefty rotation in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Like he could put that one together.
I'm wondering, do you think Schweitzer's going to get bumped to AAA to start
I
next?
I don't think so because I think they'll go Adams, whichever guys like aren't on the big league team, and then next year's versions of what Tukey, like whatever, like all these veterans that are in Charlotte. So I would say no. I bet he starts in double. But like you could make the point that like there's a bunch of guys in high A that we think are capable of being in double probably. So I mean, when you take this many college pitchers, it's like tough to leave them all in A ball just because it's just not really that much. Because even like a guy like Lucas Gordon, who maybe we say like ultimately like maybe not a prospect, but like could pitch in the big leagues at some point. Like, does that guy need to spend a year in high A? Like, I don't really know if he does, like so.
Yeah, I mean, next season, we're gonna have to sit down and go over where we think these guys are going to end
Oh
up.
yeah,
Just like make our own list because there's going to be so much movement and there are so many arms. Like the position players will be hard enough. Trying to
yeah,
figure out where they're going to shoehorn all these pitchers into is going to be a project in and of itself.
yeah. And I think you'll have like I think like the relief conversions will start for some of these guys, right? Like, and we know who they are, But I mean, like I would have said that about Sean Burke, and now he might be the front runner for a rotation spot in Chicago. So, but I mean, like Jake Eater, Nick Nastrini, any of those guys, like you could go to spring training and just find out that they're like now relievers.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as Nick Nastrini goes, they had him coming out of the pen when he came back the final time to Charlotte. And
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
curious as to whether they were starting a transition for him to the pen or whether they were just trying to limit his innings because they didn't want to hit him, him to hit a certain threshold.
Yeah, or they like sometimes they just like want to see these guys like not start a game and like what it does to them and whatever. I mean, we just saw with like Peyton Pallette, like Peyton Pallette was like this super high upside, like flyer in the draft because everybody projected him to start. And then that didn't work. But maybe he's one of the best relief pitching prospects in all of baseball. Maybe, I mean, he's pretty good. So,
Yeah. If you look at Just Baseball's top prospects at every position, Peyton Paulette is the second listed relief pitcher in the fall league.
yeah.
So that should, kind of tell you where you should kind of rank him when it
Did they have
is.
did they have Taylor as the top starter or no?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So top starter, second best reliever. I'm sure Montgomery's up there even after a rough year.
Yeah, I think he's the second shortstop
Yeah,
listed, and
makes
they
sense.
misspelled his name.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah,
Montgomery.
Ian Hamilton is in pitching, and
Yeah.
he just gave up a double. So
Oh, well, I can't.
that's Bobby
I
Witt. So yeah, well, shocker.
yeah, I feel I
Oh
don't
no, he
know.
didn't. Never mind.
Oh, okay, it was foul. All right, good. I don't know how I should feel about this playoff series between the Royals and the Yankees because I hate both of them, and I don't know
Yeah.
where to go.
So for me, like as somebody who, so like I'm not a huge college basketball fan. I just I fell out of love with the tournament and that sport. Like once it just became like a bunch of future gym teachers like playing each other. But I mean, like I always kind of rooted for chalk. Like I was that guy, like because it's like, oh, the upset's cool, but like then you have to watch that upset team play again. So I think for this year, like give me Yankees Dodgers or Yankees to like just the star power like at the end. And I know like most people don't want that, like, but I'm fine with it. Even like for Phillies, like Phillies, Dodgers, even the Padres would be interesting. But then it has to be Yankees because I can't root for one of these central teams. I can't do it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't do
I
it.
know. I felt so happy to watch the Guardians, just kind of melt down in that top of the ninth today.
Right. Yeah.
But the issue is that the team that did it was the Tigers.
Well, like
So I'm kind of
all these awesome relievers are getting hammered.
yeah,
But I mean,
yeah,
it's the
Class
playoffs.
A.
Like it's like so for me, like I rooted for Kansas City in the first part because now I like just hate Baltimore and their fans. But I can't root for them again. Like I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and it's like
evil empire, baby. Like let's do it. Let's ride with the Yankees.
I mean, man, damn you, AL Central, for making me root for the Yankees.
But there's not like an NL team where I'm like, oh man, I really want them to win because like eh, I don't know, like the gluttony of the Dodgers is like a little bit annoying too. But like Shohei Ohtani is like the best player we're ever gonna see. So like, do we want him to get a title? Like I get that part too. Like maybe
Yeah,
like do we want AJ Preller rewarded just for being the way he is? Like I understand people that like want that sort of GM where it's like always interesting, right? And I do
yeah,
like that he like develops players and then he just like uses them for currency and then he just develops more and then whatever. So if that finally pays off for him, like that's fine. But I don't know. I'm not really like attached to any of these teams necessarily.
Did you happen to catch that Dodgers Padres game last night?
Yeah, or like I watched like the replay of it, like the condensed part.
Yeah, that
But
was
that's like the condensed part's like 20 minutes.
yeah.
Like, 'cause
Well, I
it's
mean
like
that the just the throwing it throwing the ball at Profar, like
Mhm.
when I was watching the game, that was like a half an hour that took to get
Yeah.
taken care of.
What do you think about, and I actually heard this like mentioned on the score today when I was in the car. Like don't like what do you think about Smoltz? Because like I just kind of feel like at times like the sport like should maybe have their lead analyst be somebody that actually likes the sport still. Like I don't know. Like I understand like the flaws that it has. Like we talk about some of them frequently. But I mean like you just like stand up there and talk about everything you hate about baseball and you're like the lead analyst like for the playoffs.
Yeah, he is like the biggest red-assed, baseball analyst pretty much that there is out there right now. Is he's, the old guard guy, that's still trying to gatekeep the game of baseball.
Yeah, like I don't really like the game's different, man. Like what like it's like it's like the small ball people. Like, oh, you got to get in the playoffs and bunt. No, you have to get in the playoffs and hit homers and hope that your relievers are good. Like, it's
Yeah,
just kind of like I mean occasionally, right? But you're not going to manufacture runs against the best pitchers in the sport. Like you're not going to anymore.
yeah. The only way to really to do that is when you're pulling it off when somebody's not expecting it, or the guy that's doing it has to be very, very good at it. Like Jackson Merrill, that guy can pretty
Yeah.
much do everything, and he's been fantastic in the playoffs so
But
far.
you're not going to do it to win 4 out of 7 games.
No, no, his home runs that he hits are
Yeah.
the things
Like,
that really make him valuable.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
Do
um,
you want to do any of these questions? I don't know. Like I think
okay.
we're like trying to get an hour in here and the White Sox there's no news. So,
Yeah, no, there's no way where I mean, we could probably, if we just ramble on about the playoffs, we could make it to an hour, but I don't want to do that.
yeah,
Um,
I'm kind of done with these teams. I want the offset. Like I'm the like the hot stove guy. Like I let's go. I was so mad Sunday. Part of my morning routine, is USA Today with our buddy Bob.
Bob,
And
yeah,
there were no notes this week.
he didn't put any out this week.
He wrote a column, and I usually like ignore his column and scroll to the bottom of it, and then it says, like around the base paths or whatever he does, and then it's like all in there. And there was nothing this week
Uh,
because there's
well,
always White Sox stuff, and then I feel like everybody, like then like you see all the screenshots of the White Sox portions of the Nightingale piece. Every Sunday it's a tradition.
yeah, I didn't realize that there weren't any
Yeah,
notes.
maybe he doesn't
Um,
do it for the playoffs. I don't know.
yeah, unless there's probably, unless there's some sort of juicy rumor. So, let's go ahead and move on to that. Speaking of juicy rumors,
It's a couple.
um, yeah, so
A juicy
Buck
old rumor, yeah.
Yeah, so Buck Showalter has tried to throw his hat in the ring for the White Sox job. I saw a little bit of your opinions on it on Twitter. Um,
Weird.
What do you what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I guess I've like talked to people that were like, "What?" But like Keith Law is like pretty good at what he does, so I'm sure he's like, he worked at ESPN. Like I'm sure he knows people that are like, "Hey, Buck wants that job," and then he decided to report it how he did. Like the way he said it was like, "Oh, I hear that Buck Showalter's angling for that job, whatever that means." Like I don't really think that Chris Getz is going to be swayed. So does that mean like Buck goes right to Jerry and Tony? Like like I don't know. I mean, that I do agree with Keith. Like that doesn't make any sense because they're gonna be. I mean, it's not like Buck Showalter's bad, right? Like he's fine, but like I think it's just like what it means. Like it's not like you hire Buck Showalter and then spend $250 million to try to win. Like that part's not happening. Um. So yeah, I mean, it just seems like a desperate like old guy that like wants to keep managing. Personally, to me, but because
Yeah, exactly.
this is like the only job. So
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about it. Like my feelings on Showalter have been that he's always been like that. Exactly what the White Sox hired Ricky Renteria to be, which is the guy that gets you almost to the point where you're ready, and then they cut him loose. And this has happened to him like 10 times. So it's not like I'm saying anything new here. So the question is do you at this stage of his career and at his age, if he's angling for the job, clearly he knows that that's how he's viewed, and he's just kind of leaning into it, right?
yeah, probably because I think, and he also like would be signing up for rebuilding. Um, I don't know. And who knows? Maybe he has like some sort of relationship with Getz or like some of the people that Getz. I didn't go and look at every Buck Showalter stop and try to like match names or anything like that. I just kind of saw
Yeah.
it and I was like, ooh, because I really thought like the guy Bruce Levine talks about or like some other no name that we've never heard of, right? Or like a Tigers bench coach George Lombard, Clayton McCullough we've heard from the Dodgers, like somebody like that makes a lot of sense. I think. Because like it seems like it's not going to be Skip Schumacher, but I don't really know what that means for Skip Schumacher because I don't really see a job.
Yeah, that's the thing is that, with Francona taking the Reds job now, that kind of leaves slim pickings for Schumacher, unless
Unless like
uh
Dave Roberts gets fired or something, and then
exactly.
that's like an
Eh,
upgrade. I
yeah,
don't know.
in if that's the case, if that job opens up, Schumacher's not getting that job. There's no way.
The
They're going to
Dodgers
hire
job?
some.
No,
Yeah, I don't think
they would
so.
not. No, I agree.
Yeah, they would hire somebody else, which would possibly open up a position somewhere else, or he takes a year off.
Right. Yeah,
I don't.
I would not see the Dodgers. Like that's like where the Dodgers like steal Kevin Cash or something. Like the Dodgers do some massive like, oh, that's what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like that's yeah, no. I don't really see Skip Schumacher getting that job either, but he's from California and I heard like, oh, he wants one of the California jobs. I'm like, okay, but none of those jobs are open. So I
Yeah.
don't I don't know what he's
Yes.
gonna do. Like there were some Kim Ing like rumors too, like cause she's like tight with Jerry or whatever, where like she wouldn't come in over Chris Getz, but like maybe as like a advisor to baseball ops or like who knows, right? Like I don't know what if that's true. I think I would still say no, that stuff's not likely, and they're gonna hire like Clayton McCullough, and then this is gonna be your new like face for a while. And then if you ever get good, like maybe you replace him with like the guy that it's like time to win with, or this guy's that guy. But I think they're interviewing so many people that they're gonna find somebody that they want to hire.
Yeah. I don't know. I would. As Vince points out in the comments, like he's won pretty much everywhere where he's been. I mean, it's just it's when they want to push him over the, when they want to push
Yeah,
the team over the top. That's generally when they're like, okay, we've had enough. Like I don't know whether it's like the, just his attitude or, his song and dance kind of loses its favor in the
yeah.
clubhouse or what the deal is. But, he's always being bumped out when it comes time
Well,
to
and
do
he
that.
was just with the Mets for like 2 or 3.
something like that. Yeah.
David Stearns was like, "No, we're gonna hire the Yankees bench coach. Thank you very much." Like so. But it was a weird comment by Law how he said that it would be a bad idea because Buck likes to stick his nose in player development. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is if he's angling for it, it's going to be either they're going to tell him this is the way it's going to be, and we've already got all this stuff that we're figuring out. You are going to have to just keep your hands off this stuff. Like this is what we do. You stay over in your lane,
Yeah.
So, you want to go through? Let's go through here and answer some of these things.
Some of
here.
these, yeah, there's some interesting.
Let's see. Alec asks who's going to make their debuts next year.
Oh
I
God,
mean,
a lot of people.
yeah.
There will be a lot. There will be a lot of prospect debuts next year.
If you have not done the Sporkle quiz,
I tried
from the 2024 White Sox, I highly suggest just taking a look at it and realize that there are 63 names on that list.
Yeah.
The 2025 White Sox will not be any different, and they're going to have roughly about the same number, I would imagine.
Yeah. Who did you completely forget about? There were a couple.
Yes, Senzel. I forgot about just because it was like one of those things where it was coming down to the wire, and I forgot about Senzel.
Well, and he never played in the minors for them.
Yeah, so that kind of like
I forgot Rafael Ortega.
That one I got that. I got Ellis. Yeah, I got most of the minor league guys. It was guys that just went straight to the White Sox. Those were the guys that like Enyel De Los Santos. Like
I also
that,
didn't remember
him.
I didn't remember your guy Gus Farland.
Gus Farland.
Who is this other reliever? Yeah. But I think I got like 57, 58, which is disgusting. I was mad at myself that I knew so many.
It's sad, yeah. I think I got 59 or 60 on my first run through, and I did it again to see if I could remember it, and I didn't end up going perfect, but I mean, yeah, it's pretty sad. Moving along here. Let's see here. Have we heard anything out of Instructs, especially about the newly acquired prospects? I haven't heard like performance stuff so much.
No, I mean there's like photos from Jerry obviously out there. Yeah. I have heard from people that like whatever this means, like they're very excited about Caleb Bonham. Like he could be awesome.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that means like straight to Kannapolis out of high school awesome, or like go to Arizona and dominate and then go to Kannapolis. But if he's the best position player prospect in the system, like for a little bit, like after Montgomery and Carroll are like in the big leagues, like it's probably not that surprising. I mean, I guess it would be him and Wolko. Keep drafting prep hitters.
And he's playing shortstop too.
He is, yeah.
So, which I thought that they were moving him off shortstop and moving him to third base, but
there's no reason to yet, I guess. Yeah.
Every time I see him, he's playing shortstop. So,
I know they like the younger profile. I'm always hesitant, like with DSL guys coming over because they've just failed so often, or it's like, I guess not failed, but like the statistics don't translate stateside. So it's just, and they don't see, I mean, and I guess like people don't seem to be that high on Javier Mogollon, even though like the stats are like really good. And I know he's like a sawed off second base only type guy, but like he can friggin' hit, man.
Yeah, he can swing it. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's probably like he's hard to project, because he's already filled out.
Yeah, he's second base.
He's not going to be a 6'2" guy. He's not going to, project for 45 home runs unless, he just like continues to do what he's doing and does the Jose Altuve thing, which I mean, I'm all for, but he's got to do it,
Yeah.
Let's see here. Sergio Santos down in Double-A. Let's
I think he might.
See what happens.
I think he might be the Knights manager next year.
So this is one thing that I've been throwing some feelers out about, trying to figure out exactly what's going on there. With Jersley, I'm trying to figure out whether he's going to stick with, a staff up in the major leagues and gets groomed that way, the way that they've been trying to get him up into a major league staff, and then eventually as a manager. I mean, I don't know if that happens with the White Sox or not, but if that's the case, I know that Sergio Santos has already thrown his name in the ring, that he would be interested to manage the big league club. But I could definitely see him moving at least up to AAA.
Yeah.
And
I mean, do you know what his if there's a specialty, right? Does Jershely coach infield?
I think he is an infield guy. I don't remember if he's got a specialty though.
Right, if he's the third base coach on the new staff, he has to coach something.
I
that's
could
a
have
big thing.
swore that he was an infield guy when he first started with the Intimidators.
Yeah.
But
That's what he
I'm
played,
not.
but
I'm not 100% sure that's what they had him,
yeah.
honed in on. But I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard some rumblings about him and Sizemore, and there's just some of these guys that I think they'd prefer to keep around in some capacity. But I also don't want them to hire a manager that's sure, fill out my staff for me, So that part's definitely different or interesting, I guess.
This is also true.
Yeah, and Ken Kendrick and Jerry are tight, so I think we got our answer.
It's entirely possible because Jerry loves to hire the guys that are in his bracket of the AARP. So
yeah, and maybe he would somehow think that hiring Buck is sticking it to Steve Cohen somehow.
Yeah, so I texted you this earlier this week. How pissed will Jerry be if somehow Cohen manages to pull this off this year
If
and
the
win
Mets
the World
win it
Series?
all, I know. Yeah, probably not
in
thrilled.
the year that his team sets the record for worst record ever, and ironically, it's also a record that he took away from the Mets.
Yeah. Yeah,
That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, he hates Steve Cohen. I love Steve. Steve Cohen's great for baseball. We need more. Did you see the Middleton comments? That's the best.
No, I did not.
So Frank Middleton, I think is what it is. He owns the Phillies, and he was talking about how they just want to win, and his great grandchildren might be upset with him someday, but he's never going to meet them, so he doesn't care.
Yeah,
I love it. That's
I
fantastic.
laughed.
That's fantastic.
I chuckled about it. It's good.
That's great.
So Vince asked, were you guys surprised to see Montgomery still high at 37 on MLB Pipeline? That seemed about right for me. I didn't think that they were going to drop him out of the top 50 or anything.
Yeah, I think what happened, I think it's a market correction. I think you and I kind of talked about this a little bit. I just feel maybe he was never a top 10 prospect in baseball. And he skyrocketed way too high too quickly, and he was always supposed to be in the 25 to 40 range. And this is kind of where he settles in, which I think is fine. It's also not a great top 100 list. If you listen to podcasts at Baseball America and the guys at Pipeline, they're just kind of talking about how tough this list is right now because of prospect capitals. It's a weird spot because the draft from 2 years ago, there's so many guys that are already in the big leagues that it's you usually have high draft picks, on top 100 lists for a couple of years. And
not so much now.
Yeah. And we're in this cycle where some of these college guys are up so quickly, that it's kind of doing this to lists, and then pitchers too. There's just not that many pitching prospects right now.
Yeah, they're having a tough time. It's once it gets the guys, outside the top 20, it's crapshoot.
They're all the same. If 21 through 100 is the same, it's just becomes a list based on preference. And I think the guys at Pipeline, they're very vocal about the fact that they send the list out to scouts and people they trust. And what do you think about this? So, Jim Callis comes on with us, and he might be higher on a guy or lower on a guy than the MLB Pipeline list would indicate, because they do kind of like a consensus thing. So yeah, like it's just interesting right now. Like some of the guys that are the number one is Junior Camanero's like the number one prospect in baseball, and I feel like
in on MLB Pipeline, yes. I believe it's Roman Anthony,
that's right.
Red Sox guy in for Baseball America.
Yeah, and I think he's like a definite corner. Yeah, it's not Frank Middleton, it's John. Thank you. But yeah, it's just I think Montgomery being in the 30s is fine. I think Schultz is the one where, like, if you think he's the best pitching prospect in baseball, he's high, but it's also like I understand like the risks there too. Because what Jackson Job's probably won most places, I would think.
Yeah. You also had like like what is that, Christian Campbell, who just like rocketed up the list this year.
Yeah,
insane.
It's a player development win. But I mean, yeah, like who's in Texas from Florida? I mean, he wasn't even like in the minors. Wyatt Langford, Wyatt Langford, Wyatt Langford, like just basically went to the Rangers. Like he was just like, okay, I'm in the big leagues now. And like Dylan Cruz, the only reason why he was down was so the Nats could like play service time games, which I completely understand. But I mean, that's the like Skeens, like all these guys were up immediately. And I think looking at like the draft that you and I just covered, I think it's going to be similar. Like, like I think like Charlie Condon had a rough time in high A.
He did, yeah. But we've seen this, in his first season. It's just what it is.
Right. So next year when he like destroys high A for 2 weeks and then goes to double and then he's in the big leagues like by June 15th, like we're not going to be surprised. I feel like Travis Bazzana's in the big leagues next year. I feel like JJ Weatherholt could be. I think Burns and Smith could be. So I mean, this might just be a new thing where like the guys at the top college programs are just so advanced and so developed now. And the minors are like worse than they've ever been. I mean, you know better than me. I mean, A-ball is like a developmental league at times, like especially before the draft. So some of these guys are just like too good for the minors. Now that doesn't mean that they're gonna like come to the big leagues right away and be great.
Exactly.
This is like kind of the environment that's been created though.
Which is what I want to say here for about Joshua said about Langford, that he expected more power. That will come. He's definitely has the power. I think it's a comfortability thing with him. It will come. As far as Christian Moore goes, we'll know he'll be up in like I don't know, May next year.
Yeah, did you see Artie Moreno said that they're gonna like spend a ton of money though? The payroll is going up. It is time to win.
I mean, yeah, it went up a ton when they signed Albert Pujols too. What did that do for him?
Alex Bregman, you are a Los Angeles Angel.
Well, I mean, they still have don't they have Rendon for another year, I think? It's got to be like 4 or 5 years, huh?
I think he was one of those massive 8-year deals like that somebody signed. It's like not great. But I kind of like, you could pull up in a second too, Josh's other question I found interesting about what a successful 25 looks like.
2026 he's a free agent in 2027.
So he's got 2 more years of hating baseball.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. How many over under 105 games for those two seasons combined?
Oh, below.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Combined?
Yeah, both seasons. So a total. So he could play.
210.
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say 105 over 2 years. I think I'll play more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. So like 105 each year is what, 210? Yeah. So
I'd be surprised if he does it even once.
Yeah.
Eesh, that guy.
I mean, it's like what, a total of 324. So can he play 210 of 324? No, I think no. No way.
Yeah, and he wants to retire and like do other things. So there's no shot he even plays 100 games, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's like a my calf hurts guy, and then he's done for whatever.
Oh, let's see here. Yes, this I wanted to talk about.
I think it's interesting.
Yeah. So, what does a successful 2025 look like? And can the season be a success if they don't land 1-1 in 2026?
So the second part first is like all luck. And I think it's very likely. So the way the odds work, the bottom 3 records all have the same odds to get number 1. So I think it's a safe bet to assume the White Sox will have a bottom 3 record next year. You think that's fair?
I would say that, yes, that is fair.
Yeah. So I think if you give yourself that, right? Like you should, like if you're doing the rebuild thing and your goal is that, you should just want one of those top bottom 3 records. And then if you end up picking 4th because the draft rules are stupid, like it is what it is. I don't think you can hold them to picking 1 when it's just like a dice roll, basically.
I would 100% not be surprised if they get the worst record again in baseball and they end up with the 6th pick. I would
No, of course,
100% not be surprised.
of course not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they couldn't do it the next year because of it.
Yeah, because they'd hit in the lottery,
Yeah.
so they're not allowed to pick in the top 10.
What do
Besides the
you
fact that, they should have had the first
what do
pick.
you what do you think success is? What makes you feel better about 26 and going forward? Because I have some answers, but
I mean, in my opinion, the thing that really is important is that the young guys do what we're looking for them to do, and that they learn and they take their lumps in a bad year
yeah.
by continuing to run out there and taking their innings, taking their at bats, and getting through all the rookie, first season of seeing what playing baseball is like in the major leagues and figuring it out.
To me, like I'm pretty confident that their 2026 rotation is going to be pretty good.
I think so.
Schultz, Smith, any combo of like Thorpe, Cannon, Burke, Taylor, free agent ad, whatever, right? The part that's more difficult is the position player side. So if you can develop like 2 position players that you think are not even like not superstars, right? But like cornerstone players for like your next good team. Like if Colson Montgomery and Edgar Caro are both good, I think that's a big win in 2025 personally, because I think you're not going to have to spend a ton on pitching. And I know how like dire everything seems, but like with the money you have on the books, like if Colson Montgomery is your shortstop and Edgar Caro is your catcher and like Ramos is decent enough to play somewhere, like you should be able to sign 3 position players that next offseason and be decent with like a young rotation. You know what I mean? So like I think that is probably like the most promising thing that could happen. It doesn't involve like them going on a run and winning 70 games or something. That doesn't matter. It's how many players can you find that might be on your next good team whenever the heck that ends up being.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
exactly. Even if it's in 5 years and it's the end of their window, it's the whole thing is to try and find players that are actually worth keeping around, which has been an issue for the last I don't know, 7-8 years. So we'll see. So Arizona Fall League starts. Actually, it started 8 minutes ago. The first game was starting out in Arizona. So we'll be having video highlights coming up starting tomorrow because their first game is tomorrow. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, and I wonder if we don't know any pitching matchups or anything. I mean, a lot of people have said Grant Taylor's the best pitcher, so maybe he gets the first start. I don't know though. We'll see. There's other prospects on that team, so
Yeah, and I have to imagine that he's probably only going to see like 3 innings to start.
yeah,
Is my
probably.
guess. Yeah. Let's see here.
Yes.
Which 2025 White Sox gets the most at bats that don't belong on an MLB roster?
Oh boy. Is it
Man.
is it is it Andrew Vaughn? No. Because he could be rostered. Jacob Amaya?
I mean, Vargas made a run for it this year.
Yeah, not good. I'm hoping Vargas kind of does a Corey Lee thing where it's like he's not particularly good, but useful after like an off season of change of some kind, because Corey Lee looked like lost when they got hit, like from the Astros. It's like, oh God, failed former prospect. Like,
He had a hand injury.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
you got to cut him some slack for that. But, as the year went on, he showed what he was, and he came back down from,
This year, yeah,
what he was doing early.
he's a backup catcher with some power. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I mean, for $8 million of Kendall Graveman, like I think that's okay.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it. It's just, I just, the thing was, and the knock that I heard on him from Astros guys was that either he'll hit for a higher average or he'll hit for power. He's never done both at the same time.
No. And I'd
And
personally, if he's a backup catcher, I'd rather have the power personally. But
yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at as well. Let's see here. Doug asks, how many walks per inning at the Fall League? White Sox pitchers look okay, but others not so much.
I mean, it's definitely a hitter's league. I mean, a lot of teams don't send their better pitchers. That's why the White Sox group, I think, is fairly interesting.
Yeah, they should. I mean, just judging from the White Sox prospects that they sent out there, I would hope that Glendale has like one of the best pitching staffs just simply because of who they sent out there. I guess we'll see, Tuyo Natoa making his second appearance out there, and he was real good out there last year. And
Adler,
Taylor and Paulette and Adler. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got Adler's there. Like Dahlquist is trying to transition into this bullpen role, and the Sox have to find out whether he's like worth keeping around, essentially, like.
I felt bad for him the other day. Did you see that hit by the Padres prospect off of him that went
like
120 miles?
Yeah. Yeah, it's off
120.
Off Andrew Dahl. I mean, like Andrew Dahlquist wasn't like typical relief convert, but he was actually like pretty decent. Like,
no, yeah, he was pretty good. He put in some good appearances this year. That particular pitch looked like he hung a slider, and it was like belt high, and the dude just crushed it. But I mean, I think he hit it right at somebody. I'm pretty sure it was an out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It was just hit really hard.
Very hard. Let's think here.
And so the international stuff, we can get to it later. We could do it now.
Yeah, let's get to it.
I do think it's interesting. So the White Sox basically fired all of their international scouts. And I don't know, I probably shouldn't laugh at that, but it's just like the way it's been, like, and my buddy Francis, like the way he tweeted that the other day, said it was like a sad day for the industry. And it's kind of like, well, I mean, it is, I guess, because like I want scouts employed too, but like, I think it's pretty evident that like Chris Getz did not like the way Marco Patti was running the White Sox international operation. So like basically all the Dominican scouts fired, all the Venezuelan scouts fired, and then there were some out of Mexico and Panama too. I would imagine.
Oh, they fired the ones out of Panama as well? I was going to actually ask about that.
Apparently.
Okay.
But they've gotten some decent guys out of there.
They have. That's why I was wondering if they left Panama alone, because they've actually done some decent stuff out of there,
Yeah, so I guess it's like, so David Keller now is just hires all new people, because that is not something like even the teams that are like getting rid of scouts and using data and computers and stuff, they're not doing that at Complex League and DSL. Like everybody has on the ground scouts in the DSL in Arizona. So they're just going to hire a bunch of people. And look, I can't claim that these scouts were bad at their jobs. They might have been fine. Like I had always heard rumors that like the biggest issue was money, of course, with the White Sox, because they would hold back money for Cubans. So then you couldn't compete like in these areas at times. And like I had heard that was like a Marco Patti strategy, but like, I mean, Kenny liked it too, because you could get a guy to the big leagues quicker. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like they're going to actually run like a real international operation like other teams do. I'm just going to be curious to see like how quickly any of us will be able to actually like notice a change because of how dirty and sleazy the market is. Like we always talk about it, right? Like there's agreements made for the next like couple of years. Like are the Sox able to get out of some of those and like steal a guy or two from somewhere else? Like we'll see, you know. So
Can or will the Sox acquire a solid ball player from Japan or
mm,
KBO within the next 2 off seasons?
I mean, I feel like everything should be on the table. I don't know why you wouldn't try to, but I mean, they've had no footprint like in the Pacific Rim at all, like since the Iguchi, and he was like a vet, you know. So, you know, and a lot of these young guys, like you're gonna hear a lot about what Roki Sasaki and some of these guys. Like a lot of these guys want to be on the West Coast, like they just do.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see
Either that or New York, one or the other.
right. It's very rarely flyover country unless it's like an older guy. And what the Cubs, you know, maybe signed the best free agent in baseball last. I mean, that was a great signing, and like a lot of people didn't know how good Shota Imanaga was going to be, but he was like awesome, you know. So maybe,
Yeah. I mean, the White Sox could sign that 37-year-old, or however old he is, that
oh
pitcher
yeah,
that's
that's
coming over.
yeah, the junk baller guy, right? He's got a great slider, but yeah, I mean, he's like the perfect like Padre. Like he just like comes over and fills a rotation spot for the recovering Joe Musgrove. You know, like it's just he signed with a contender. Soccer.
I wouldn't expect to see any. Pretty much, I wouldn't expect to see the White Sox sign him, especially because they're not contending. So
Yeah.
I just don't expect to see them get anybody other than somebody who's like a just a guy.
Well, yeah,
You
or
know,
like maybe there's another Eric Fetty that we don't know about yet.
yeah, no, they could totally do that. I mean, I'm just specifically speaking of like Japanese or Korean born player.
Right.
I wouldn't expect to see that on the White Sox anytime soon.
Well, unless it's Riku.
Well, yeah, but I mean, to be
I
fair, he was stateside,
yeah.
playing college here, so that one's a totally not totally different, but it's a different scenario here. Um, yeah, that's actually a great question that I've never thought about. All these solid Japanese pitchers, there must be some good catchers over there. We definitely need to get back into Japan. I mean, I don't know if they can hit.
My guess is they can't hit it all. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my guess. They can't. Yeah.
that's probably the problem. Uh, let's see here.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I mean,
We'll see
here's the
how
thing.
this
Like, my
goes.
guess is like they have so. I mean, their top signing is a 17-year-old out of Cuba, $2 million. He's ranked 32nd at MLB Pipeline right now. We'll see. I mean, they have other signings. I don't know who any of them are. I mean, the thing that interests me, they have not like 940K left, like in this signing period that they can spend up until December 15th. So, do they sign somebody? I think they were just at the showcase for this like Cuban pitcher that's like 19 or Yan Ewing or whatever. So who knows? I mean, they'll either sign somebody or they'll trade that money for somebody.
Yeah, and he looked like his mechanics looked fairly decent and everything. I don't, you
Yeah.
know, we don't see the consistency of the radar readings or any of that stuff, or actually know like a ton about the guy. So
No, none at all.
I saw another one pop up earlier today. Another Cuban kid who was like 22, who had just
Mm-hmm.
made himself available in Mexico, and he's like 93 to 96. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be nice, Doug. Doug says, can they trade 900K for a Dodger pitcher again? I would be all, and we still haven't even seen Maximo Martinez yet because he got injured earlier this year. But Aldrin Batista was pretty stinking good.
Yeah, he is good. Yeah, if you could do something similar, I think that makes sense. With the money for sure. So yeah, I mean they could do something like that. There was another one about Oscar Colas, by Wolf Larson. Are you guys done with Colas? Are the Sox? I mean, I don't really know what Oscar Colas is at this point. I know that Chris Getz doesn't seem to be a huge fan, and he launched all the other Marco Patti players. So I don't know how, well that bodes for Oscar Colas. But I mean, this was a historically awful baseball team, and he didn't really get a chance to play on it. So that's probably all the evidence you need of like just what they think about him.
I mean, I personally think that the talent's there. I just don't feel like it's getting it has been extracted, or that he's not as engaged as he should be. It's if you're playing in AAA and you don't think that you deserve to be there,
Yeah.
and the team that you go to is the White Sox, where it's pretty much Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. It's like, what can you really expect out of a guy like Oscar Colas?
Yeah, I mean, how much does $2 million get you in the Queen City? Probably quite a bit, I would imagine. He's probably living it up pretty well.
Yeah, I'm sure he's probably doing all right. He's probably got himself a nice condo and stuff, and making some decent, making a decent weekly paycheck as well. So I'm sure he's doing all right. But I'm sure he'd like to play in the majors and get that paycheck instead.
Yeah, that one's a little bit better.
Yeah. Blank name says, better not pick Showalter to be manager.
Yeah, well, we'll
Yeah.
see. You see if they pick, but if they did that and like Chris Getz looks like the hostage video that Rick Hahn did when they hired Tony La Russa.
If that happens, it's going to be comical.
Yeah.
And I at that point, I'm going to have to evaluate like what I'm going to do with my life for the next few years.
I think Bruce Levine nailed it. Like because of like one little detail that was in that article that he wrote where it said that like he had talked to an American League, like an aspiring American League, like young manager type who expressed interest in the job and was kind of told like, no, they have their guy already. Basically, and they weren't going to get it. So like, and Bruce identified this McCullough guy, so I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they'll go through or I'm sure they'll say they've gone through the process. But
oh my gosh, why are you the way that you are? I just don't. I don't understand. Well, if that is indeed the case,
I was waiting for like some names to leak out because it was early.
I'm sure they had to have interviewed already. Some people, I would imagine.
You would think so. Like at least Zoom, like preliminary, like Zoom ones or whatever. Like, I mean, I'm sure they got permission for. I mean, maybe like the Dodgers first base coach like wasn't allowed to interview yet or something, But I mean, yeah, like other guys, I don't see why not. But yeah, I mean I feel like we got names like right away during the like when they hired Pedro. Like we heard about Pedro, we heard some other names. And then it kind of went on and on and on. And then there were other dumb rumors. And then it was like, oh, it's going to be Pedro. It's like, oh, okay.
So it might be that it's McCullough and they just are not allowed to talk to him yet.
Yeah, I would be really surprised, though, at this point, like if it's internal. Like if it ends up being Sizemore or like Santos now, I would be pretty surprised because I feel like they would have just done that already.
Yeah.
Like if it was like
that's what I'm saying.
Sergio Santos is this guy that we love and like we're promoting him, he's great. Like you do that at the end of the season. Yeah. You don't go through this whole process and then like decide that.
Yeah, and I for one do not want him getting out of the White Sox system.
No, I would like to keep him. This one from Doug is awesome.
Maybe from the Dodgers is the player to
be named later. It's the new manager. Yeah. Because remember, so they still have a player coming in the Miguel Vargas deal.
Yes.
So if it's Clayton McCullough and then they get him for that would be hilarious. That'd be so White.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny.
The player to be named later is our new manager. Welcome, Clayton McCullough.
Yeah, but when he comes off the airplane, they've got one of those rain slickers over his wrist because he's handcuffed.
Yeah. And his whole family like came with him, and they all couldn't like ride in first class. Some of them had to ride coach.
Yeah, he has to ride on the Airbus. He doesn't get to ride on an actual show plane.
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Well, if the Dodgers are the ones sending him because he's the player to be named later,
Yeah.
they'll send him on a real one.
Or he'll just hitch a ride from Camelback. Like,
Ooh, there you go. Kirk Gibson.
ooh. Hmm.
Anywho, so real quick, just because this just came out here, and then we can mercifully call it a night here. But the MLB Trade Rumors dropped their estimated ARB numbers, and let's just go through here right quick, and you tell me what
Yay or nay? Yeah. No.
I mean, at this point, like I would be shocked if there is a yes that is not a pitcher. Nicky Lopez.
Absolutely not for that $5 million. Now? Here's the thing: like, if that's a no, and then he signs for 2.5, I wouldn't love it because I'd rather go younger, but like I would understand.
Yeah, from what I understand is that Nicky is like one of those quintessential clubhouse guys, and that he's awesome in the locker room, which is cool. But 5.1 is a lot of money. But then again, as I've been asked off this stream, it's not my money, so I don't really care much about the money. I just figure that if I'm going to spend 5 million on somebody, I'd rather spend 5 million on somebody that I actually want to sign. Is my
Right.
opinion.
Right.
Matt Foster coming in at $900K.
If he's healthy, sure. I'm fine with that one.
That's a great question because we've only seen him for a little bit. So, and as Doug mentions here, Nicky Lopez, he is from Naperville. If you weren't aware,
How could you know? How would you know? Yeah.
Garrett Crochet, 2.9 million.
The no-brainer of all no-brainers.
Yeah. Eniel De Los Santos, 1.7 mil.
I mean, I say no, but like, my guess is they could get him. They could split it and get him cheaper than that. Like I think if they offered him like 1.1, he probably takes it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's possible. Although I don't know what he made last year, so I guess I would have to look because he was ARB last year. So
yeah,
if he made 1.3 last year, you're not going to be able to get him for less than that.
Yeah.
Andrew Vaughn, $6.4 million.
That is a lot of cheddar. So we spent a large portion of our last show talking about how 5 million was too much. So absolutely not. Like, no. Like, and even like if you disagree with me and like my philosophy on like what I said like about how they should sign a closer to flip them. Like if you took the Nicky Lopez money and the Andrew Vaughn money, that's like a $11.5 million player. You could get somebody pretty good for that price, I feel like.
Yeah, you could get somebody that was, positive WAR and positive OPS plus, which is crazy to think about.
I mean, you add Lambert and a couple of these other guys to it, you could sign Andrew Benintendi again.
Man, that's very tempting.
Yeah.
To double his money.
Yeah.
Just for playing. You've done such a great job. We're actually going to pay you double what we're paying you.
Yeah.
Just so you stick around. Justin Anderson, $1.1 million.
Fine. I mean, I say no because like I don't really need him on the 40 man. I'd rather have a younger guy or a guy you can flip. But like if they did that, that's fine.
Yeah, the one good thing about Anderson is that he did punch the clock quite often this year, and he did pitch some innings. So, while not awesome, he did put in some innings. Jimmy Lambert, 1.2 million.
I think Jimmy's probably toast. My guess is that's an easy non-tender for them because of the recurring shoulder stuff. I really like Jimmy Lambert as a prospect, and then when he came up in 2020 in the relief role, he was like way better in like short stints than I ever anticipated. But shoulders are really tough to come back from.
Yeah, that's the thing and his curveball is just absolutely devastating when his shoulder is good. But that's been the problem is his shoulder's been shot. This comment from David: your team gets better by subtracting most of these players. That's not a lie.
Well, it is what it is, you know.
Gavin Sheets, $2.6 million.
No.
That's
I
actually
mean,
more of a hesitation than I was expecting.
I mean, it's like no money, right? But he's just not any good. So like I don't know, like I could see them doing the like moving on from Vaughn potentially, and then doing the Gavin Sheets Tim Elko thing like one time
That's possible.
because it's so cheap. I just don't have any faith that Sheets is just any more than he's shown us that he is. And if that's the case, then $2.5 million is too much money.
Yeah. You know, for that production,
Yeah.
you could very, very easily get better production out of a minimum salary.
For sure.
Steven Wilson, $1 million.
So Steven Wilson's an easy yes for me with 3 years of control remaining. Steven Wilson is like relievers are fickle. Steven Wilson could easily be one of the better relievers on the White Sox in the first half next year, and then you get a prospect for him. And if he sucks, you cut him because it's $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, he's not even my favorite Steven Wilson, but I'll take him for $1 million, especially with 3 million or with 3 years of control. What did Tommy Pham cost? That's actually a good question. I do not remember.
4 million ish.
Yeah, but how much did we actually pay him? That's
not
my
that.
question.
I mean, I think when they signed him, he might have signed like a 1-year deal for like 3 mil, and then he got probably more than half of it.
I thought it was less than that. 2.15.
Ugh.
Yeah. And then he's getting 1.368 from the Royals.
Okay.
So he's roughly going to make a. Let's see here. Signed a 1 year. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So his agent got him paid.
Good for him. Good for him. He made some money this year. I'm happy for him. And you know, like the thing is that 2024 cash 3.9 million. That's what it says. I like Tommy Pham, and I wish we could have stuck around. And you know what? I would absolutely love to hang out with Tommy Pham and hear some stories from that guy about this team, because no doubt there would be some absolutely fantastic little tidbits that I would love to hear.
Yeah, it's like, Tommy, how bad is it? He's like, it's worse than you think. Be like, okay, awesome.
To answer this, Vince, did they acquire Wilson just to flip him? I do not believe so. I felt like they thought that he had a spot in the bullpen. I thought, but I mean, they never did flip him, and he wasn't that great when it was time to flip him.
Yeah,
So,
he wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
They were just filling spots at that point. I mean, he was a throw-in the Dylan Cease trade.
Yep. And you know, he still made what, like 40 appearances or something like that. So
yeah,
you know, I mean, some of them were more abbreviated than you would like, but you know, he still put in some work there. You got anything else for this week, James? I think we pretty much covered it all.
I think we covered everything we talked about. I don't know how quickly we'll have news on a manager. My guess is it's still a while. I mean, I feel like the Francona news was like sudden, and like they had a target. He decided he wanted to manage, and that's done. I don't think that scenario is like in play for the White Sox right now. I think this is probably going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I agree. But you know, I guess we'll find out. If it's the Dodgers guy, it's going to take a couple more weeks. You know, so we'll see where that goes. So with the Arizona Fall League starting tonight, I'm actually going to flip over to that after we get done here. James has released the Arizona Fall League White Sox players preview on FutureSox.net. So if you are looking to see what's going on over there, go ahead and hop over on FutureSox.net and check that out. You can find all of our written content. Sleepy Harold will still be doing the trending on the farm articles for the Arizona Fall League every week. We'll see what kind of I'm not, the whole thing with the Arizona Fall League is it's kind of a crapshoot as far as playing time goes. I don't know who's going to be prioritized as far as who gets at bats and who gets innings, but whatever there is, FutureSox on X/Twitter. You will see video highlights of it when any of the White Sox players do something interesting, and so that'll be coming your way. You can support us on Patreon if you feel inclined to do so. You can find that on our website. You can also, if you are listening to this in podcast form, please know that you can also watch on YouTube or on the Purple app as well on Monday nights at 8 p.m. This might become a little bit more scarce as we go on here in the off season, just because we want to make sure that we're not wasting anybody's time with these episodes, and we want to make sure that we have something to talk about. So, but as for right now, we are planning on doing Mondays at 8 throughout the.
For a little bit, for a couple more weeks, and then if we switch back to Sundays, that's fine, or just do kind of emergency shows when stuff happens.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully there is things that pop up, and we've got some awesome stuff to do an emergency podcast about. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but we'll see. So my name is Ian Eskridge at Daily White Sox. He is James Fox at James Fox 917. We will catch up with you guys next week. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for hopping into chat. Thanks for talking. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll catch up with you guys next week. Have a great one. Thanks.